Hey guys, Brian Schroeder here, Suzanne Luther, FasterFunds Lending. We're going to shoot a video on the BRRRR method, or the BRRRR's method. It used to be called the BRRRR method. The dude named Brandon Turner coined this phrase like, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe. I've actually been doing this method for like 20 years, so it existed way longer before Brandon Turner came up with the name. But then our very own Sam Prim had to change it, make it even better. So he upgraded it to the BRRRR's method. So, you know, BRRRR method, BRRRR's method, that's what we're going to be talking about today. It is a way to build a portfolio of rentals without having to put 20% down on every deal. So you can scale a lot faster. That's why Sam brought in the S for scale. So it used to be buy a house at a discount, find the property, rehab the property. I don't have my glasses on. Rent the property out, refinance it, and then repeat was the old method. Sam changed it to scale. So, but we're going to be talking through that, and we're going to talk through how you can build a portfolio of rentals without having to put 20% down in every deal, so you can scale. Because most people don't have the money to build a portfolio putting 20% down, or if they did, it would take
forever. You'd be maybe buying one house a year.
Exactly.
If you were a super saver and made a lot of money.
Yes, exactly. All right, so the first step, buy a house at a discount. Can you tell us about that, Suzanne?
Yeah, so, obviously buying a house at a discount is really critical when talking about the BRRRR's method. That's because the end goal is to be able to refinance and get all your money back. So if you're not buying it right on the front end, you're not going to be able to get all your money out on the back end. So when you're buying it at a discount, you want to make sure that you know your numbers. Honestly, that's what's really important for this part of the step. So you need to know, what is the property going to be worth after it's fixed up? So what's the ARV, or after repair value? So that's the first number you need to know. Second number you need to know is, what's your repair going to cost? And it's really important when you're doing a rental to really make sure you're comparing apples to apples with your comps. If you're not going to update your rental as nice as other sales in the neighborhood because the cabinets are fine, it just doesn't need a whole lot, make sure you're looking at similar comps to that. But you also need to know what it's going to cost you to fix that property up. And then all you're doing is just figuring out your maximum offer from there. So you're taking your ARV, or after repair value, you're multiplying that by 65, 70, 75%, whatever that multiplier you feel most comfortable with, and then you're subtracting your repair numbers from that. Yeah,
so that formula is super important. I find that most people are trying to do it at after repaired value times 75% minus repairs. Because if you do by 75%, that gives you a little bit of room in there, because most banks are going to lend you 80% of the appraised value. So if you got just a little bit of room in there for closing costs and financing fees and so forth, that way you'll get all your money back. But there's some people that are buying at 80%. They're just not getting 100% of their money back. They're getting most of it back.
They're just happy, to keep they're willing to pay a little bit more for the property, and they're happy to keep, 5, 10, 15 grand into that property.
Yeah. So step number one of the BRRRR's method is buy a house at a discount.
And I forgot the other important part when you're buying it at a discount.
Yes.
The second important part is making sure that house is going to cash flow. We are in a very rate-changing environment, so it's really important right now when you're buying that house at a discount to also, just on that front end, if your exit strategy is going to be to rent it out, to just make sure that the house is going to cash flow the way you want it to. So making sure to talk to your end lender about what our rates at right now, because those are drastically changing. So seeing what that is, and then just using a simple cash flow calculator. We have one on our resources page that you're welcome to utilize. If you have your own, that works well too. But just make sure that you're not going to go through this whole process and then have a house that has a negative cash flow, or is cash flowing you $20 a month.
Well said. So step number one is buy a house at a discount. That's maybe the most important step in here, but that's the first step. Step number two, rehab the property.
Yeah. So when you're rehabbing the property, it's important to take a few factors into consideration. I like to, when I'm rehabbing a house to be a rental, I like to make it as bulletproof as possible. So I'm all about, how do I get as few maintenance calls as possible, especially within the first few years, because when you're refinancing out, you're trying to recoup all that money, and you're not going to keep refinancing out that property most likely, over and over and over again. So, that might be, making sure all the systems are looking awesome. I don't like carpet in my rentals. I think most of our clients don't like carpet in their rentals. They're using either LVP or they're refinishing the hardwood floors that are already there. Just paying attention to things like that. I know a lot of people don't like to put tile in their bathrooms because tenants rarely clean the tile appropriately. So just, thinking through things like that. And then making sure, you're looking at, Zillow or wherever you're looking at to see what other rentals are out there to make sure that yours kind of fits in. It could be important to make it stick out just a little bit if you're trying to, get a nicer rental rate. So paying attention to all those things.
So step number 1 is buy a house at a discount. Step number 2 is rehab that property, get it rent-ready condition. Step number 3 is rent that property out to an awesome tenant.
Yes. Keyword being awesome tenant. This is the part that is, I think, most critical long term. So maybe you're working with a property management company. If you're working with a property management company, awesome. Make sure they know how to find you an awesome tenant. If you're doing the tenant selection yourself, that's totally good too. But just make sure you have a good process and steps in place. I know some common tips that we utilize with our property management company is making sure that the tenant shows at least 3 times net income of what the rent is, not gross. I remember I did property management for a hot moment, and I remember there was this guy, he worked for Quick Trip, and I think he made like $100,000, and he was trying to rent out a rental that I think was like $1,200 a month or something for his family. So his gross was great. Yep. And then I looked at his take-home pay, and his take-home pay was like, I think it was like $500 pay period, because he had so many crazy deductions. I've never seen anything like it, but that's why
Taxes,
we say net.
Maybe a 401k. Maybe
He had
he was
401k loans, he had garnishments, he had all the things.
Yep.
Yeah, so just making sure to look at net, not gross, and make sure it's verifiable income. Yep. Sometimes you'll have people who apply and, they kind of have like little side jobs, so they're just showing you random checks here or there. Just be really careful and make sure that you're protected. Sometimes people just ask for a higher security deposit or something like that, but understand your risk. Another common thing people do if they're doing the selection themselves is they do a home visit, which I actually learned about from Brian. Just go and walk through that tenant's current property when you do the lease sign up to make sure that they're going to take care of your house because they're taking care of their current property. And I know, Brian, something I've heard you say too is it's a great coaching opportunity too, to make sure the tenant is going to, kind of knows what your expectations are to take care of the house.
Yes. Well said. All right. So BRRRR's method, buy a house at a discount, rehab that property, get it into really good condition, bulletproof condition. I like the way you said that. Rent the house out to an awesome tenant. So at this point, you own the house. It's a great house. It's got income coming in. Yep. The next step is to refinance the house. You want to talk through that a little bit?
Yeah. So the refinance step is really critical to get you out of that short-term, more expensive, temporary loan. So your best option is to work with a local lender. We all day long talk about find the local lender that's the best fit for you. So make sure it's advantageous of people to start building a relationship with a lender before they start to buy rentals, just so they're very aware of, a lot of them have their own unique formulas to figure out how much they're going to refinance the property back for. They're going to be looking for specific things. Some people will let you refinance before a tenant's in. Other people require the tenant to be in the property for so many months. So making sure you're talking to your lender ahead of time to understand those expectations and that they like the properties that you're buying in. A lot of lenders have a minimum ARV that they'll go to, so they won't do anything, below 100,000. So if you're looking at houses under 100,000, make sure you're being clear with that. And build a really good relationship with them, because if you have a great relationship with your long-term lender, just like if you have a great relationship with your front-end lender, it's going to make your whole process really smooth and easy because you know exactly what expectations you need to meet, and then you can just get that property refinanced and The goal is to be able to get all of your money back and move on to the next deal.
Yeah, and just to add just a little bit of that, just to make sure people understand how you build a portfolio of rentals without any money out of your pocket is on when you're buying it and you're buying it at a discount. If you're using a hard money lender or some other kind of short-term financing, you can typically get 100% or close to 100% as long as you're buying it right, using the formula. So you have none of your own money in the process there. Then the rehab part you can borrow from a hard money lender or a private lender or maybe a line of credit on your house or whatever, or maybe you just use some short-term cash for that. So that's where you're getting the money for the rehab. Then when you come to the refinance part, if the house appraises for that after repaired value, the bank will typically lend you up to 80% of that. And the goal is when you're getting that 80% loan, that gives you enough money to pay back your hard money lender, pay back the money that you borrowed for the rehab, and any fees that you had in the process of doing that. Get all your money back, and then you're ready to do it again, which is the next step. So,
yes.
BRRRR method: buy a house at a discount, rehab the house, rent the house to an awesome tenant, refinance that house with a good local bank or mortgage broker, and last R is repeat. Do it again.
Yep, just keep doing it again and again and again. If you're just trying to buy a couple rentals, you don't have to go through the BRRRR method. Just put 20% down. But
Right.
if you really want to scale, you really want to, grow your rental portfolio to hit your financial freedom number or hit whatever goals that you might have out there, you just keep doing the same process over and over and over again.
It actually gets quite fun and entertaining, just being able to keep doing it over and over again. I've done it over 150 times, so it's certainly doable. You can do it as many times as you want to. Suzanne, anything else to wrap this video, or is last minute thoughts?
No, I think it's just really important to make sure if you're starting to think about the BRRRR's method, figure out what kind of properties you're looking for, what's your ideal area, figuring out how to make sure things cash flow, and just make sure to talk to your local bank to make sure you're producing a product that they're excited about and that works for both of you.
And this was a video on the BRRRR method. If you want to learn about that R or that S on the BRRRRs that Sam Prim talked about, go over to Faster Freedom. He'll tell you all about it. It really teaches about the scale side of it. So thanks for watching us today.